Hi there, welcome to another episode of Gekes Cantina. My name is Gekes, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. There's not going to be any movie reviews, there's not going to be any unboxing videos or anything like that. It's just going to be me talking about one of my favourite things, and I'm smiling because you probably, if you've already seen my other videos, you probably already know that one of my favourite things ever is the Star Wars franchise. So in this episode, I am going to be breaking down my top 5 Star Wars moments. Now, when I say Star Wars moments, this is going to be strictly the live action movies. It's not going to be The Mandalorian, it's not going to be Rebels, Clone Wars, or any of the other animated series. It's just going to be specifically to the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, the sequel trilogy, and Rogue One and Solo. So, being a child of the 80s, I grew up with the original trilogy. So if you'd asked me what my 5 top favourite moments from the Star Wars movies was about 20 years ago, they probably would have been a lot different than what these are going to be. But obviously over the years, they've expanded the universe, they've released more trilogies, yes, that is plural, trilogies, and spin-off movies. So these are just my personal favourites, and there could be probably hundreds. I'm going to put a few honourable mentions on here as well, but there are going to be a lot of moments that I would like to have put on this video, but I had managed to boil it down to 5 of my favourites. So to kick off my list, my number 5 is the trench run from the original OG Star Wars movie. Star Wars A New Hope, or as it's known now, is Star Wars Episode 4. Now, obviously, this is the original. This is the one that started it all off. This is the one that really set the stage for what was to come. In 1977, George Lucas released this awesome movie. It was basically a fantasy movie in space. That's all it was. And at the end, as probably most of you already know, if you don't already know this, then don't watch this video because there's going to be major old school spoilers here. But Luke Skywalker flies his X-Wing down the trench of the first Death Star, and basically, to cut a long story short, he blows it up. And that. So it's the first time we saw anything like this. Nothing had been done like this before. The special effects were revolutionary. Yeah, the use of miniatures, the incredible score, and obviously the dramatic story. It was the culmination of a story and the birth of a very unlikely hero. Well, unlikely at the time. He was just a young farm boy, flying an X-wing and destroying the Empire's massive space station. In a very, very, very unlikely shot, but as we all know, he probably used the Force. In all likelihood, he probably used the Force. The guy does missiles or proton torpedoes without really consciously knowing about it. But it really set the tone, and that first great big hurrah for the original trilogy. So yeah, I thought this would be a good way to start off my list. Now, the second moment on my list is, believe it or not, it's from Star Wars Episode 1. Now, anyone who's a Star Wars fan probably already knows that there's only a couple of worthy moments of Star Wars Episode 1. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate the movie, but as far as the strongest Star Wars movie, it is certainly near the bottom, if not at the bottom. I haven't quite decided that one yet. But this moment of mine is actually at the end. It's the lightsaber battle between Darth Maul, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Qui-Gon Jinn. Now, obviously the Jedi's are together. This isn't like a triple threat lightsaber battle, but it's Maul against the Jedi. Now, everyone praises this moment as a great lightsaber battle, and it is. It's one of the strongest ones, I would say. And that, when Maul is there, he ignites one side of his saber, then he ignites another. And how come I would be remiss if I did not mention the magnificent score by John Williams? We all know it. It's great. I wish I could play it over this video, but I probably wouldn't be allowed to. But yes, so everyone praises it as the spectacle that it is. It is truly, truly epic, and it kind of, again, a lot like the trench run on the original Star Wars: A New Hope. This really kind of kickstarted the prequel trilogy. So it was kind of the climax of the prequel trilogy. Now again, as I said, people praise it for the great choreography, the score, the spectacle, the fact that these two Jedi are facing off against the Sith, which wasn't really seen a huge amount in the original trilogy. But what is, I think, is really, really understated is just the importance of this moment in what was to come afterwards. Now we all know what came afterwards. You know, it's kind of Qui-Gon dies. You know, Anakin and Obi-Wan, they go on to have their story. And Anakin obviously becoming Vader, and Obi-Wan becoming, you know, who he was to become. Stayed as Obi-Wan, but became the Hermit, and then became the Force Ghost, and all those story arcs. But the point I'm making is that if Qui-Gon had not have died, if Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn had managed to kill Maul themselves, just, you know, with the two of them, not just Obi-Wan, then I get the feeling that the Anakin's story would have been very, very different, because Qui-Gon Jinn represents the rebellious side of the Jedi. Now he was very, very antagonistic with the Jedi Council, and he was a little bit of a maverick as far as Jedi Masters are concerned. So as Anakin's master and mentor, maybe he could have been more of an appropriate father figure for Anakin. Maybe if Anakin had had Qui-Gon Jinn instead of Obi-Wan Kenobi, then maybe he would not have become who he became. So I really do think that the importance of this moment is always overshadowed by the fact that, yes, it is a great lightsaber battle. Yes, it's, you know, two Jedi versus a Sith, and the Sith is really holding his own. And obviously Ray Parks was great as Darth Maul and that, but it kind of gets forgotten that the story side of this moment in Star Wars Episode 1 was so very important to Anakin's story, as well as Obi-Wan's story. He got thrust into the limelight as being Anakin's master, because he pledged to Qui-Gon's dying breath that he would train Anakin, and he did that to the best of his abilities. Now, could he have done it better than Qui-Gon Jinn? We'll never know, but I like to think that Qui-Gon Jinn may have been able to prevent Anakin from becoming Vader because of his character, because of who he was. So anyway, sorry, I've rambled on quite a bit about that one, but I just think that's a really, really important side to Episode 1. And, you know, let's face it, there's not a lot of good things that came out of Episode 1. So we'll talk about more about that later. So number 3 of my five favourite moments, Star Wars moments, comes in the climax of Episode 6, or as we know it as Return of the Jedi. Now this is the climax of the movie. It's the character arc for Anakin / Vader, and that is the moment when Vader finally decides that he's had enough of the Emperor, and he saves Luke from imminent death at the hands of all the Force lightning of Emperor Palpatine. So obviously he hoists up Palpatine. You know, Vader's already been injured from his lightsaber battle with his son, with Luke. But even though he's injured, he uses his big old cyborg strength, hoists up this wrinkly old Bart, and thrusts him down into the depths of the failing Death Star. And obviously, while he's doing that, he's mortally wounded by the Emperor and his Force lightning, because the Emperor's like, "What the hell is going on?" And he's like, you know, using his lightning on Vader, and anyway, tragedy ensues. But again, this moment represents Vader's return to the light side. Now, you know, it could be debated that, you know, the role of a Sith apprentice is to overthrow his master. And that is exactly what happened, but his motives for overthrowing his master is not to gain his master's power, but actually more to save that paternal instincts kicking in and to save the life of his son. obviously Vader dies a short while after that. He sacrificed his own life to rescue his son from imminent death. Now, I think that's pretty awesome. That is a good arc when you consider where Anakin started, the midpoint, when he got turned into Vader, his career, if you want to call it that, career as a Jedi killer, and then finally he's coming full circle all the way back to the light side. All his self-sacrificing nature. Now, it could be debated whether he, even though he did rescue his son and he did kill the ultimate evil in the universe, whether that righted all the wrongs that he did as Vader. I would say probably not, but it still got him the keys to Jedi heaven, and he still became a Force ghost at the end of Return of the Jedi, as we saw when he stands next to Obi-Wan Kenobi. Well, okay, it's arguable. I'm talking about the original trilogy. It was, the original Vader. It wasn't Hayden Christensen. It was obviously the Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Anakin. But, well, we won't go down that road. At the end of the trilogy, the original trilogy, you see the Force Ghost at the end, and there he is. There's Anakin standing there. Again, it's debatable whether he should have been there, whether that one good deed righted all the wrongs, but regardless whether you like it or not, he joined the Force and he became a Force ghost. So there it is. So again, it was a good moment. Obviously, if you hadn't seen the movies, you wouldn't have seen it coming. There was a few teasers along the way, but it's that truly a Star Wars music, the epic music kicks in when he's lifting oh mate, it's just great. It's great. I'm drooling a little bit because it's great. But yeah, so that was the next moment on my list. So the fourth one on my list, number 4, is again, it's another Vader Luke Skywalker moment, and this is before Vader turns good. This is when he's in full Sith mode. This is in Star Wars Episode 5 or Empire Strikes Back, and that personally my favourite of all of the Star Wars movies, and it's a great story. I'm going to probably talk about that another day, but this is the moment, that crowning moment when everyone was like, oh! I think you might have guessed what it's going to be, but after an incredible lightsaber duel between Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader on Bespin, they're fighting, there's sparks flying, there's lots of jumping, screaming, and force powers being used, and Luke finds himself cornered and treed. He's hanging off down over this big old vent on Cloud City, and he gets wounded, gets his hand cut off, bloody, and he's hanging there. He's feeling sorry for himself, and Vader's kind of got him at the end of his saber. And of course, they're going to have a bit of a chat before Vader decides what he wants to do, and he drops the bombshell. It's a truly microphone dropping moment when Vader says those immortal words, "No, I am your father." For anyone who sees that, I'm jealous for the people that haven't seen it but see that for the first time, because I was too young to appreciate it when I first saw it, just how much gravity those words would have held at the time. And in the future, it's still iconic. Everyone knows it. People who don't even know the Star Wars franchise knows that. It tends to get misinterpreted a little bit, or they tend to misquote it. Luke, I am your father. No. That wasn't the line. It's, no, I am your father. But anyway, regardless of all of that, it's again a massive turning point in the story, because you think, oh, Vader, he's just the Black Knight. Going back to the whole fantasy analogy, he's the Dark Knight, not Batman, but the knight in the black armor. He's the evil, he's the bad guy, he's the Jedi killer, he's the mass murderer. Yes, he's all of that, but he's also the hero's father. Now, you didn't see it coming at the time. There's stories about how people on set on the day of filming didn't know that all of this stuff was kind of all kept very, very hush-hush, and there was multiple versions of it, blah-de-blah. Regardless of whether all that is true or not, it still is one of the most epic twists or swerves or whatever you want to call it in movie history, as far as I'm concerned, and it's definitely worthy of my five top Star Wars moments. Now, before we get to my top favourite Star Wars moment, I'm just going to have a few quick honourable mentions. The first one being from Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Much like Episode 1, there wasn't a huge amount to be really excited about. There was a couple of things. For me, one of the best things that came out of Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, was the beginning of the Clone Wars. It was teased very, very subtly in the original movie about the mentioning of the Clone Wars and blah blah blah. And there was a huge, speculation about what the Clone Wars was going to look like, if it was ever going to be seen, and we finally get to see it, and it's great. It's full on Star Wars. It's actually put the wars in Star Wars. It actually feels like a great big ground battle, which you don't get to see a huge amount in the original trilogy because of technological limitations, all that other jazz. But it was great, definitely worthy in Episode 2. Another honourable mention being Episode 1, the pod race, of course. This is NASCAR on another planet, alien NASCAR, let's call it that. And it's truly something different for the Star Wars franchise, that's for sure. A change of pace and a change of tone, literally. And it was a lot of fun, and it kind of cemented Anakin as a bit of a daredevil and a great pilot, even though he was a bratty little kid. But again, it's one of the two worthy moments in Episode 1. I'll talk about Episode 1 another day, I'm sure. But that was the other one. That was the other worthy moment, was the pod race. Now, moving back again to Episode 2, this was a great little moment. Quite short-lived. It was Yoda actually wielding his lightsaber against Count Dooku. Now, up until that point, Yoda had been a puppet. Particularly in the original trilogy, in Episodes 5 and 6, he was a puppet, and he was kind of a comic relief initially, but he's a bit small and green and wise, and you kind of knew what to expect from Yoda, even in Episode 1, even as a puppet and the CGI version, depending on what version of the movie you see, he's still sitting there spouting his wise words and being the great Jedi Master that he is and was. And however, in Episode 2, he got to cast that chair aside that he was sitting on, literally cast his walking stick aside, and wield his little green lightsaber. And no, that is not a euphemism. And he ignited his lightsaber and had a duel with Count Dooku. Now, no one was really expecting him to be like the super spinning. He's like a cross between a gremlin and a Tasmanian devil with that lightsaber, and his war cries were just, I remember seeing it in the cinema, I was absolutely in hysterics just how awesome it was. I was literally laughing my butt off because it was so great. But yeah, honourable mention, had to be done. Never thought I'd get to squeeze one of these in, but this is one from Solo. Yes, I'm actually going to mention Solo in this video. Again, not one of the greatest Star Wars movies, but one I thought a noteworthy moment was right near the end of the movie, when Beckett and Solo are standing off against each other. You think there's going to be, pistols at dawn kind of cowboy moment. Beckett is giving his speech, and bang! Solo shoots him. Without warning, it's done off camera. All you see is Beckett there, and he gets shot in the chest, and down he goes. Beautiful moment for any Star Wars fanboy that really gets and understands that moment. It's kind of a callback to what happens with Greedo and Han Solo in Episode 4, in the original Star Wars movie A New Hope. Who shot first? It kind of cements that for me, that Solo shot first, because they've established in the timeline that Solo was willing to put someone down to do what he needed to do without it being a fair fight. It didn't need to be a fair fight. All he needed to do was win, and that's what he did against Beckett. That's what he did against Greedo. And if you don't like that I say that Solo shot first, tough. This is my video. I can say what I want. Right, my last of the honourable mentions, because I know I'm rattling off quite a few here. My last honourable mention was going to be from Star Wars Episode 7. I had to get something from the sequel trilogy. There wasn't, I'm going to talk about that another day. But one of the finest moments in Episode 7, The Force Awakens, was the moment when, it broke my heart. It truly broke my heart when Kylo Ren murdered his father, Han Solo, excuse me, on that bridge, on that bridge. And yeah, again, a very, very important moment. All people see is Han Solo dying, which he does, and it's heartbreaking every single time. Every time I watch it, I always pray that they've changed it. Strangely, it never happens. But you know, Kylo skewering Solo on his lightsaber, and Han touching his face, all fatherly and paternally, and then falls to his death. Now, yes, it was a dramatic moment in Episode 7. Truly was. And however, it was an important moment for the character of Kylo Ren. See, love him or hate him, I actually really like Kylo Ren as a character. I think he's incredibly complicated, and I think there's a lot of hate on him because of certain memes and certain images of particularly him in with his high trousers, you know, with his man boobs out. But anyway, as a character, it's important for him because he killed his father, and because he killed his father, he was trying to please Snoke. Now, he wanted to do that because he wanted to be a truly badass dark warrior, however you want to describe him. I wouldn't say he's Sith. He was never referred to as a Sith. But anyway, dark force, dark wielder, force wielder, whatever. So anyway, he kills his father, and that subsequent act, even though he doesn't show regret, he kind of covers it up, and it haunts him all the way through. And it was ultimately, as we all know, love it or hate it, it was Han Solo's ghost, if you want to call it a ghost. Was he a ghost, or was he a manifestation of Kylo Ren or Ben Solo's mind? Who knows? That was never really made clear. But it was the appearance of Han Solo in the end of Episode 9. It's kind of what pushed Kylo Ren back to the light side, made Kylo Ren go back to being Ben Solo. And again, love it or hate it, I think it was supposed to mirror a little bit of what they did with Vader. But for the character of Kylo Ren, it set him on a path down the path of the dark side. But ultimately, yes, it did. It led him deep into the dark side of the Force. But ultimately, it led him all the way back to the light side as well. With obviously the help of what Leia did, sacrificing herself. But again, that's another thing for another time. But the bottom line is, Kylo Ren did it. He's a badass for doing it. But it kind of ultimately backfired on him, because instead of making him more of a bad guy, his actions led him to becoming more of a good guy in the end. Love it or hate it. I loved it. Now, anyway, let's get to the finale of my list. My top moment of all the Star Wars movies. I know you've been watching this with bated breath. I know you have been. But I've been geeking out over this, and it's been great fun just rattling on about it. I hope I haven't bored you too much. But anyway, okay. Now, for me, my favourite Star Wars moment, it's a very small moment. Well, it's not a small moment, but it's a very short moment. But it was one of the most incredible things I'd ever seen. Now, let me just put it in context. When it's from Rogue One, when I saw Rogue One, I went to see it at the midnight premiere. I was there in a cinema packed full of Star Wars geeks, much like myself. And the moment near the end of the movie, when Darth Vader is standing there in the dark corridor, he ignites his lightsaber, silhouettes himself, or that red glow from his lightsaber lights him up, and the rebels absolutely poo themselves. And then Vader proceeds to massacre them and cut them down and just kick their butts, just walk through them as if they're nothing, just hewing them down with his lightsaber, and the music goes epic, and it just, because what it was up until that point, we had seen Vader, he'd been in the original trilogy, but it was kind of when you see him in Episode 4, then 5 and 6, it's kind of like the beginning of the end for him. Now you know, when he kind of slowly kind of ascends to the light side, and obviously culminating in his character arc at the end of episode 6. But we never really saw him in full Sith mode, in full, I'm gonna cut you down with my lightsaber, and I'm also gonna shove it right up your you know what, And this was Vader as we all wanted to see him, as that butt kicker, as that rebel slaying Sith warrior that I wanted to see him as, and he was genuinely scary, and it was magnificent. It was truly magnificent. There he was, all decked in his armor with his lightsaber, just mowing these guys down, and these guys didn't stand a chance. And they were playing hot potato with the plans for the Death Star that the rebels had just got from Scarif, and it was all crazy and frantic, and the music just completely represented what it was. It was one of those magnificent moments which I can watch time and time and time again. And like I said, it's not a massive character moment, it's not a massive story moment, it's just a massive, epic moment that I, as a lifelong fanboy, had been wanting to see, and they finally showed it. I don't think the original plan was to have Vader in it, if I recall, but I'm so glad they put this moment in the movie, because hands down, still to this day, it eclipses everything else as far as I'm concerned. And again, this is my video, and this is my choice. Anyway, I've rattled all those off. This video is going to probably be way too long. Please, I hope you've sat through and watched it all. I do tend to geek out big time when I'm doing these videos about Star Wars, because it's a passion of mine. I like it. I've even got BB-8 on my t-shirt. You see it? Anyway, I'm going to stop now. So thank you for watching this video. If you've watched it all, I appreciate the fact that you've sat there watching me geek out at Star Wars. If you agree with my picks, great. If you don't, great. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but this was my list, my opinions, and this is my video. So anyway, thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, because I want to try and get my subscribers up. There'll be more content coming soon, I'm sure there will be. I'm sure I can find something else to talk about other than Star Wars. But for now, this is the end of the episode. My name is Gekes, and thank you for visiting the Cantina one more time.